This is King Buzzo from the Melvins, and you're listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on this week's show, we have Dustin Coffman of Glassing, who I'm very excited to have here because Glassing just recently put out an excellent new LP called From the Other Side of the Mirror. And we are going to hear about the band From the Other Side of Glassing. Because Corey's been on the show a couple times and guest hosted one time. And now we are going to hear from Dustin, and we hear all about his past and the early days of Glassing, how he met Corey, how the band came together, their creative process, the recording of their LPs. There's some good mental health and therapy and even a little gaming talk in there. It's a great conversation, and I'm glad to have Dustin here because Glassing has been one of my favorite bands since I first heard Spotted Horse, which came out in 2019, I think. From the first time I heard it, I've been hooked, and I've had the opportunity to see them live a couple times, so very happy to have Dustin on the show. That conversation is coming up shortly, but before we get to that, listen to me. I need your help. We are on the push to 300 Apple Podcast reviews. We have made it past 300 reviews on Spotify. We're good there. We're up to like 304, so keep those rolling in. That's fine, but I need everyone to shift gears and direct your full attention to Apple Podcast reviews. If you have an iPhone, open up the podcast app, search The New Scene, scroll down a bit, and hit that 5-star button. We're at 231, I think, 231 Apple Podcast reviews. We've got to get it to 300, and we've got to hit it hard. So if you've done that already, thank you. If you haven't, let's go. Let's do it. Also, don't forget to support Iodine recordings. There's a lot of Iodine-related shows coming up, different tours, different runs of shows, so listen to this, okay? There's an Iodine showcase gig August 1st in Medford, Massachusetts with No Man, Love Letter, Corrode, and Teardrops. Rebuilder have 3 gigs coming up out west. Those are with Streetlight Manifesto. Piebald and Hot Rod Circuit have 2 gigs in California. Those are in October. No Man have summer tour dates coming up. Dead Bars have some tour dates coming up in August. So check those bands' Instagram pages or the Iodine newsletter or the Iodine Instagram for a full list of all those dates and go out and support live music. Also, shout out to Love Letter on the release of their debut LP, Everyone Wants Something Beautiful. It's incredible. Incredible. A must listen. Put that right on my favorite records of the year list. Go check it out if you haven't heard it yet. We'll be having Quinn, the singer of Love Letter, on an upcoming episode of the show, so I'm looking forward to talking to Quinn more about that record. And say hello to our sponsor for the month of July, Equal Vision Records, a legendary label still putting out the hits to this very day. And here's some updates from Equal Vision. Yellow Card just released a cover of Jimmy Eat World's Hear You Me. All proceeds from streaming are benefiting a friend of the band who is in need right now, so make sure you go listen to that. Gideon have tour dates in July and August. Check the EBR page for a full list of dates. Common Sage just dropped their first single called Eden. That's from their upcoming EP called Nostos Algos. It's out July 24th. The 25th anniversary tour of the Juliana Theory's Understand This Is a Dream kicks off August 1st in Santa Ana, California. Check the EBR page for a full list of dates. This Day Forward have 3 gigs coming up. These are their first shows since 2003, so you have to go. This might be it. This might be it forever. August 23rd at Underground Arts in Philadelphia. August 24th at Underground Arts in Philadelphia. That show is sold out. August 25th at Bowery Ballroom in New York City. Tickets are still available, so get them soon. Saves the Day have upcoming tour dates this November with Census Fail. They'll be playing Through Being Cool in its entirety. Check the EVR page for a full list of dates. For more updates, head to equalvision.com or check out their Instagram at equalvision. Okay, so check back in with me. In segment 3, we'll do a wrap-up of the conversation with Dustin. We'll check in, we'll talk about everything that's going on. I'll tell you what's going on with me, but right now, we are going to speak to Dustin Coffman of Glassing. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Dustin Coffman. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes,
Very nice.
Dustin, it is great to have you here. You know, Glassing has been up to a lot of exciting things lately. We just put out the excellent From the Other Side of the Mirror, and you just finished a big tour with Author and Punisher, which I saw, which was excellent, and there's plenty to talk about. But first, Dustin, I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Little tired, but that's like that's every day. So
Yeah, I
uh,
feel like being tired is just going to be a thing no matter what. It doesn't matter how much I sleep, how much I don't sleep. There's always like some level of tired. Do you feel that way?
yeah, I get tired if I sleep too much too, and I'll just wake up and I'm like, I can't win.
Yeah, that's the worst, actually. I'm not too upset with not getting enough sleep, but sometimes I'll go to bed too early on accident. Like I'll go to bed at 9 p.m. and then get up at 5 or 6. That's the worst. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I go through really weird phases with sleep where I won't be able to sleep for a while, for like pretty like weeks or months on end, and then it kind of just like all catches up to me. But yeah, I think it's just because I'm always drinking coffee and staying up too late.
How much coffee are we talking per day?
Man, I got a really unhealthy thing going on. I'll drink like a cup of coffee in the morning, and then I'll have like a Red Bull like in the afternoon. And then sometimes I'll have another coffee. And I usually just stop whenever I my hands start shaking. Then I'm like, okay, that I hit the worst part is if I'm drinking coffee all day and then I'm not like and I'm not like drinking water, and then it'll be like 2 p.m. and I'll be wired but like mentally just exhausted. But it's
Yeah.
like you just like consumed so much caffeine that you can't take a nap or anything. So you see you're just like in this weird like state of being tired and wired at the same time. It's like a fucking personal hell.
You will drink coffee and then have a Red Bull later in the day. That is wild to me.
Yeah, I feel like I can just drink any type of caffeinated beverage and it just like does nothing to me. I don't know why. I just like I can yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, I used to feel that. Like I used to be high on uppers all the time, and I would drink a Red Bull and be like, this does nothing. This is stupid. But the thing is I was high on uppers all the time, or on no sleep, or on some combination of something. So of course I'm not going to feel a Red Bull. Now that I don't do any of that anymore, when I drink a Red Bull, I feel it. I feel it the next day.
So you went full you don't drink any you don't do caffeine or anything like that anymore?
I do, but like just caffeine. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Yeah, like just I drink coffee, and if I have a long night of gaming ahead of me with a friend or something, I'll drink a Red Bull. That's like my crazy thing to do, but I can feel it now, which is good.
What kind of gaming do you do?
Well, I was doing a lot of Warzone, but
Oh,
then
cool.
Warzone 2 kind of destroyed it for me, and I never really recovered. I just hated it. I've been playing Destiny 2 with my friend online. We were looking for a co-op game and we settled on that.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I have not played a lot of Warzone, but I did do like a I got a I got one win one time in a duos match. Um and it was like I couldn't believe it. Like me and my buddy were playing together and we finally got a W and we were like, this is unreal. Because
It's
there's like a lobby of like 100 people or like 80 people in one server or something like
yeah. It's still the best feeling in the world. When I'll
Yeah.
play occasionally and I'll win. I play solos because I can't be bothered with other people and their ineffectiveness in the game, right? Oh, I
Yeah.
also don't have any gaming friends. Like, well, not too many. So if I win a solo match, me versus like 100 people or 150 people, whatever it is, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it's
Still,
unreal. It's
yeah.
so cool.
Do you live in Austin, correct?
Yes.
Did you grow up there?
No, I was born in California and my parents were in the military when I was younger, so I moved around a lot. Um, and I ended up in San Antonio and then I moved to Austin shortly after graduation.
For college?
No, high school graduation. So I think I moved to Austin in like 2006 or 2007.
Was there a specific reason you moved there, or did your whole family move there?
No, me and my band moved here at the time. I was in like a band in San Antonio, and um, we just decided to move to Austin like as a group one day, and we just liked the city a little bit more. I still really love San Antonio. It's a really special place. It cultivates like a really amazing um, like music scene that a lot of people don't know about because it's a big city and there's a lot of music and you have to kind of be looking for it in the right places. But once you find it, you realize that there's like a whole big like underground community. And that is one of my favorite things about that city. But yeah, we were from there and then we moved to Austin and then that band broke up and did a bunch of different projects since.
What was the name of of the band?
We were called We the Granada
And
and
what kind of music was it?
it was so it was a lot of different things. It was like my first band, so it was like so it was like um I think we were kind of suffering from a little bit of identity crisis. But it would I guess to describe it, it was kind of like the Blood Brothers meets like the Mars Volta. Because we were huge Blood Brothers fans and we were also huge Mars Volta fans and we kind of just were like, what would happen if we just like combine the two? So it just it didn't really work out.
So this must have been 2003, 2004-ish.
Yeah, like shortly after that. Yeah, very first band. Just kind of dumb kids that were learning how to do things kind of the hard way, you know? Like no one like showed us how to be in a band or anything or like told us like, this is kind of how you write a song and this is kind of like what you what you would do like formulating the style of your band. And a lot of that's that's a big organic process for like 90% of every band. But having a little bit of like a direction before you start making the music is probably pretty helpful, which I don't know that we had.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone ever has had that because well, yeah, I guess so. Because the bands I end up in, someone has a song or someone has an idea and it's like, okay, we're gonna go in this direction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Like my favorite bands are the ones that take styles and just kind of like styles that don't typically go together very or like you wouldn't think intuitively would go together, but they combine them and then make something completely new. I think that's a really it's a really brave thing to do. Like a high risk, high artistic risk. But man, when it if you can pull it off, it's really cool.
Yeah, that crossover music, I'll call it, has always been my favorite. Those are the kind of bands I've gravitated towards since I discovered this whole thing. Like I got into the music in the late 90s and it was Converge and
Hmm.
Dillinger Escape Plan and Cave In and Botch and I don't know, and later Hopes Fall and Deaf Heaven and Holy Fawn and I could go on and on, but all of those bands at one point were on the brink of something new that had not been done before.
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, Holy Fawn is probably one of my favorite bands, right? And they're really great individuals.
Oh, so you know them too.
Yeah, we know those guys. They're really cool. They came out, we met them. We did a tour with this band called This Will Destroy You like 7 years ago, I think, or six or 7 years ago. We played Arizona, and Holy Fawn wasn't even a band yet. I don't think they were a band. But Ryan and some of them came out to that show because they were fans of This Will Destroy You, and they saw us play. Um, and then we kind of became friends, and then they started a band and they just started kicking ass like right off the bat. Like they're incredible at what they do. And but yeah, um really great guys.
Nice, nice. So Glassing actually toured with This Will Destroy You.
Yeah, we toured with This Will Destroy You years ago on our very first LP. We had just finished recording it, and then we went on tour with them, and it was a little West Coast tour. And then we just did our record release party with them a few weeks ago at this place called The Parish in Austin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really cool.
Nice. Yeah, I just saw them. They did a tunnel blanket
Yeah.
show. It was like the 20th anniversary or I forget
Yeah.
which anniversary, but they had George from Dev Heaven come in and do guest vocals. It was
Oh
really
yeah, I
something.
heard about that. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, the guitar player Chris, he's done all of our album work for every single thing that we've ever put out, pretty much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the exception of like an EP that we did a little while ago. Chris has done all of our LP work. He did our very first EP work. Um, yeah, he's a good friend of ours, and they they've the band is a big and has always been a big inspiration for us.
Yeah, I've read about you, Dustin, and I know you're a fan of post rock as well, and it's music that has really grabbed me over the years. And I discovered Mogwai in I think 2006 around the time Mr. Beast came out, and I never heard any music like that before. I didn't know it existed, and I was instantly grabbed by it and went down the rabbit hole. But This Will Destroy You has always been big for me. I forget when exactly I discovered them, but I saw them and the self-titled was out. And then out of nowhere, I'll never forget this. They came back around again. Well, we're like, oh, let's go see them. Okay. And I think they opened with Black Dunes from Tunnel Blanket, but there was no indication that they had changed their sound or what was coming. They just smacked us in the face with Black Dunes, and it was like one of the best experiences of my whole life. It was unbelievable.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're actually San Antonio. They're from the same city as us, or at least me. Yeah, my old band would play shows with them every now and then. Or, well, we played like one or two shows, I think. Um, and yeah, that was a really long time ago, but it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that in fact that's how I discovered Glassing, because This Will Destroy You posted Spotted Horse, the record cover, and they're like, "Hey, our friends Glassing just put out this record," and I put it on, and I'll never forget hearing Sleeper for the first time. I must have played that song like 1,000 times. That's a good one.
Thanks.
Yeah. Um, so let's take it back. Now, you're like, how old are you when you're living in San Antonio and then Austin? You said you had just graduated. So what are you, like 18, 19, 20 years old?
When I started my first band, I want to say I was probably like 21, I think. And then yeah, we kind of just hit the ground running. We started we booked like a tour, um and we had never done anything like that before, and we we got a van and just like what hit the road, and it was rough. It was very DIY, very lo-fi. And that was a really cool experience though, because it was like, when you're just starting out as a band or like a young musician, doing things like putting out a record or working with a record label or going on tour, like all those things seem like very far off kind of um goals. Like sometimes they feel unattainable. And I remember our guitar player was just like, we need to go on tour. And the whole band was like, I don't know, man, like nobody knows who we are. Like this is not gonna, I feel like we're just gonna, you know, what if we run out of money out there and just get stranded, What if
Yeah.
the band breaks down? Um, and yeah, all that is definitely a concern, and has happened on other tours that I've been on. Um, but yeah, it's just like you have to take a plunge at some point, as like a young musician, and just kind of do it, and hopefully, I feel like it's just kind of like, as long as you prepare and plan and kind of make sure make sure you're playing with cool bands around the country, and you're using it as a chance to like meet all these people and kind of like build a community for yourself. I think you're probably going to be okay as like a young musician.
Yeah, exactly. And that stuff did seem completely unattainable when I was young. Because I mean, I really wanted to get into a band and I found it difficult to. I didn't do it until a little later. But I'm actually doing all that stuff now, and I'm 42 years old now. So it's like, starting the band,
That's awesome.
connecting with record labels, connecting with other bands, doing it all now because, and it is attainable. You just have to go out and do it. So is that what you wanted to do? Like you just wanted to play music, you just wanted to tour? Was that your focus?
Um, yeah, I just from like, well, my parents are musicians. And so I grew up in a pretty musical household. My parents had cover bands that they were in. And they did that for, I think, the time, like I think maybe I was like 11 years old all the way. Um, I mean, well, my dad still does it to this day. So there was always like instruments laying around the house and stuff. And I remember growing up, I didn't like rock music at all. Because my parents played it, and one a really great way to make something uncool is just like have your parents do it, and then you're just like, oh, cool. I have no interest in this whatsoever. They'd be like covering like Led Zeppelin and Alice in Chains and shit. And I was just like, this is like the dumbest stuff. So I got really into hip hop early on. And I really liked, I would just listen to like hip hop and video game soundtrack music.
Yes.
So like I was a big fan of the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. And I would listen to that a lot. And because Nobuo Uematsu is like the best composer of all time.
You know, quickly, I imported that soundtrack when I was like 16 years old from Japan, out of a magazine because I loved it so much. And
It's
I
so
recently just bought it again on eBay, the original, because mine got lost or misplaced. And yeah, that's still one of the best soundtracks out there.
yeah, he's just so amazing. And so yeah, I would listen to nothing but that back in the day. And then one day one day one of my friends gave me like a slip, or he like let me borrow a Slipknot album. I think it was Iowa, but I was like very I must have been like 12, maybe 13. And I just remember being terrified of this record. Like it was scary. Like they have like, there's like the goat on the cover, and um there's just like all kinds of like heretical stuff all over it. So I was like, yeah, I was like a little intimidated by it. But I put it on and I just remember thinking like this is the coolest thing. Like I just remember feeling like really like I would just get chills from their songs, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I kind of made my descent into like listening to a lot of metal because of that. So I listened to all throughout high school, I would listen to metal. And then eventually I got like I just picked up one of my dad's guitars and started practicing. And I just I would play so much during summer break. And then when I had school, I would go to school and then I would come home and I would just practice all day up until dinner. And then I would just eat dinner really quick and then go back to practicing. And I did that for like 2 or 3 years. And then I got to the point where I was like, man, I want to make my own music. And I started writing, but man, finding a band is like when you're like a kid is like the hardest thing to do because you just don't know anybody.
Right.
But yeah, once I met some people, I realized that, all you have to do is like get a drummer and start churning songs out and they're all gonna be bad. You're not gonna write good music, but just doing it, you start to learn in like a heuristic manner.
So Slipknot, Iowa. Yeah, I had that too. Like what other stuff did you get into? You mentioned one of your early bands sounded like Mars Volta and Blood Brothers combined, but what was your kind of trajectory
It was
with
weird. I had a weird trajectory because in San Antonio, new metal is like really big and it
yeah,
will always be big. That town is just like new metal forever. Um, and that used to be like, a thing that I wanted to like kind of distance myself from after a while. But nowadays, there's been such a resurgence of new metal that it's just like it's kind of cool. Because you see all these like kids like getting into like bands like Deftones and Korn and stuff like that, and you're like, damn, this stuff is actually like really, really cool. And um, so like I was into new metal a lot when I was a kid. And then but then when this is kind of how it happened. So I was a big fan of System of a Down. I remember they announced a tour that they were doing with, this band called the Mars Volta. And I was like, who are these guys? I've never even heard of them. So I saw like a magazine where they were on the cover and they just looked so interesting to me because they didn't look like metal guys. They didn't look tough. They didn't look menacing, or they weren't even wearing like, you know, black clothes or anything like that. And in the pictures that I saw, they had like Omar Rodriguez, the guitar player and composer, had these like giant glasses, and they both had like big afros and stuff. And I was like, man, they have like this really interesting look. And then I checked out their music, and I was torrenting it at the time because Spotify didn't really exist back then.
right.
Um, so but I didn't realize that like you kind of have to listen to all their songs like in an album, like torrenting random one-off songs is not really an ideal way to listen to a band like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
What if you get like a 14-minute noise track?
yeah,
You'll be like, what the hell is
yeah,
this?
and you will, you totally will, and that's kind of what was happening. Like I would get like some of their songs are like 30 minutes long and stuff. So every now and then you'd get like a big like a really cool long song, and then but I would listen to them, and I just remember the drumming was just so captivating. John Theodore is to this day one of my favorite drummers. He's just a monster. I think everything he did in that band was some of the coolest drumming ever. And I just got hooked on them. I loved their compositions. I loved everything they did. So I kind of wanted to to create a band like them. Which, looking back now, it's like if you're gonna try and emulate any band, like the Mars Volta is probably the hardest band to do that with because you have to have a band of just like master musicians, you know?
Yeah.
So, um, but we tried and 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 we gave it our best shot. But to this day, I still, whenever we're writing like a glassing record or I'm working on anything really, I always keep them in mind because they have their compositions are like their album compositions are still to this day some of the most impressive. Um, and the only band like that can even that like rivals them is probably Pink Floyd. Like they just those two bands, and obviously Pink Floyd influenced the Mars Volta, but those bands are just they really think about what they're doing, and I really love that about them. They're everything's very intentional with them.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've read about you and you like challenging things in music, right?
I try. Yeah, I try, but if you ask my my guitar instructor, he would probably say different. He'd probably say I take the shortcuts.
Yeah, and I can hear it in glassing too, because you'll have an ambient interlude or a post rock sounding interlude, and that stuff all fits in nicely with the records.
Yeah, we like to do stuff like that. You know, like our main influences vary a lot, but you know, This Will Destroy You will always be there, you know. Like Corey especially is very Corey kind of got me into post rock, I would say, in a way. When I first met him, I didn't really listen to it too much. He was doing that type of music before we met, and so whenever I would like I remember I went out to one of his solo shows. He was just doing like ambient guitar stuff, like post-rock guitar stuff. And I remember thinking it was like really interesting. It was really lush and cool. And and yeah, you know, as our relationship kind of continued on over the years, he would show me bands that he was into um and I really gravitated towards the post-rock sound. I liked how uh it was just like it was like contrary to all the stuff that I had listened to. You know, it was soothing and lush and beautiful, and it wasn't fast and it wasn't heavy. It can be heavy, but it's just one of those you know, it was specifically and intentionally doing the opposite of that stuff. And I thought that was really interesting artistically.
How long did you know Corey before glassing started to come together?
I met Corey probably in like 2007, maybe 2000, maybe 2010. He was living in New Orleans, and we were passing through on tour, my old band, and he let us stay at his house. I think his band played the show, but I could be completely wrong. Um, and yeah, we just kind of you know, he just let us crash at his pad, and you know, we were like we thought he was a cool dude, but you know, we didn't really stay in contact. And then he moved to Austin a few years later, and I just I went out to a few of his shows, and then like years later, I was leaving a bar and he was going into the bar, and he saw me, and I was like, "What's up, dude?" And like like he was drunk. I was drunk too, and he's like, I'm starting a metal band, and I was like, cool. Like metal is my you know my first you know, real music that I guess I've ever listened to, and I always wanted to return to it, but I just never had an opportunity because I was playing in like prog rock and math rock bands and stuff like that around that time. Um and he you know, he was like, you should come over and we'll work on stuff. And he had the majority of what our first EP and LP were. He had a lot of riffs and compositions kind of already thought out. Um, and and I just kind of like learned the songs and contributed, you know, here and there. And it wasn't until Spotted Horse really that we started to really kind of like dive into our artistic like the corners of our artistic world, you know, like that was a unique experience.
You said you play bass and do vocals in glassing, but you said you play guitar too?
Yeah, yeah, guitar is like my first instrument.
So for glassing, did you just set on bass and vocals because that's what you needed for that band?
Yeah, I mean, I at the time I was playing in this two-piece math rock band where it was like really fast and we would just like it was kind of like Hella. I don't know if you've ever listened to that band before.
Yep.
So it's just like really frantic, kind of like loud, complex playing. And I was the vocalist and guitarist for that, and it was like a lot of work. So when I joined Glassing, I wanted to just play bass. I just wanted like a chill, like a chill job, you know? Like, I didn't want to like do a bunch of stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'll join this band and I'll just play bass and it'll be super cool. Um, and then our lead, we got a lead singer and that didn't work out. So we had a bunch of tryouts for new lead singers and no one was really like gelling with us the way we wanted to. So one day we were just like out of practice. We were out of practice space and I just set the mic up and started screaming into it for the first time. And I was like, I think I can probably do this. So then I reluctantly became the singer of the band.
Ah, yes. That's how it happens a lot of the times.
Yeah, I I still kind of wish like or at least hope to maybe one day be in a band where I don't have to do vocals. Yeah, I could just show up and play bass and not have any big responsibilities. That'd be great.
So we have glassing together. We're working on the first EP and the first record, which you said a lot of that was written already because Corey had been working on it, right?
Yeah, Corey had a lot of like compositions kind of structured and he just really needed like a drummer and a bassist and a singer to kind of like put it all together.
And were you feeling it at the time? It sounds like you have a pretty wide array of influences, and you said you wanted to get back to a metal band, so this must have been something you were looking for, was it?
Yeah, it was so like my metal tastes and like Corey will roast me on this, but like I listened to like older metal at the time. I wasn't really into bands like Pelican and Russian Circles and Boris and stuff. I had never really listened to those. Um, but when I joined Glassing, there was the style of metal that they were playing was similar to that. You know, all Corey's riffs were very like influenced by all these like post metal bands that I had never been exposed to. So I thought everything was really cool. And our drummer at the time, Camacho, he has a pretty in-depth like music encyclopedia. You know, like his influences are very like very dense. So he'll do like we would be like writing a song, right? And then he'd be like, I feel like I'm gonna do like a Harvey Milk thing here. And I'd be like, who's Harvey Milk? And then he's like, all right, man, I'll put you on after practice. And he would like show me all this stuff. And he introduced me to the Cocteau Twins. He introduced me to Boris. There's like so much music that I kind of like I listen to now because of Camacho and because of Corey. So I was kind of going into that with just like these old school metal concepts and a lot of prog rock. Like the guys used to tell me back in the day, they'd be like, you don't have to play so many notes. This could be just be like one note, for a whole bar. You could just trying to kind of instill like a little more minimal approach, but it's kind of how like doom bands write stuff. So that was like a new concept for me, I remember.
Yeah, this was your opportunity to take it easy more on bass.
I kind of I found I found my outlet. Yeah.
So, Spotted Horse. Now, you recorded this record at Spotted Horse Ranch, correct?
Yeah.
Now, What was the plan? Now, you said this record is where everyone started to dip into their influences. And I guess, did you all write this one more cohesively as a trio as well?
Yeah, we did. We didn't have anything written really when we went to this ranch. It's like an hour out of Austin, and we knew Macho knew this. He's like a lathe engineer, and he let us stay there to record to write and record and stuff like that. And so we stayed at this ranch and kind of like did nothing but write music. And because it was like just an empty canvas, we kind of got to do whatever we wanted. And that album is that was the first time we'd ever done something like that. Just like held up in a place for a little while and just to write music, just to see what would happen.
How long were you there? How long did you have?
I think we were there for like a week.
So you wrote and recorded that in a week?
We did like demos there. So we had to contact our our sound engineer, Andrew Hernandez. Once we were done writing, we were like, okay, we left the ranch, came back into Austin, and then started tracking. So the recording process was not there, but we did write the songs and record them in like demo fashion. We would have like field recorders and just, nothing too crazy, just enough so that we can remember how the song goes.
Right. How long would you play during the day? Would it be like an all day thing, an all night thing? I'm just thinking about like putting a whole record together in a week.
Yeah, we would play the majority of the day. We would take breaks and stuff, but we would play, we would write during the day, and then when it got dark, because we were out in the middle of nowhere, there was no sound ordinance thing. So we could keep going at night. And I think as a trio, our creative minds kind of open up a little bit more at nighttime. And I remember a lot of songs that would come into fruition at night. And it's a cool thing to do, to write something during the day, take a breather from it for a little while, and then kind of like reapproach it at night and see if the vibe and the feel is still there.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than when a song just comes out of nowhere. And I mean, there's songs that I've written in bands and I have no idea how they happened or where they happened. It's just there all of a sudden. It's almost like an otherworldly thing. It's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. When you notice like a lightning in a bottle type scenario, it's like if you're in an environment like that, like at that ranch, it's easy to capture that. It's difficult when you're writing an album, in town, and you have to go to work the next day, or you have the distractions of life in the way of writing. That's when it gets hard, because you'll be like, man, this is a really cool concept. I wish we could explore this. And then like, it's like, damn, I have to wait till next week in order to like do this. And by then, the feel could be gone.
Was Sleeper one of those songs? Do you remember writing it or hearing it for the first time? Were you like, wow?
I honestly can't remember how we wrote Sleeper. I remember I had that bass line, and we were like writing an intro for it. Yeah, and then I think that's just the bass line, kind of like we wrote around that. But yeah, that was a cool song.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you mention that, I can hear the bass line is like there and I can see the rest of it coming together around that. That's
It's a
cool.
very like at the drive-in bass line, which is funny because we were like just talking about how the Volta just shapes everything I do.
Yeah. Well, if you're a band in South Texas, I mean, at the drive-in, you have to pay respects. It's the law.
It is the law.
No, but at the drive-in are seriously amazing. That's another band that was like huge for Just in this scene in general, and just I don't know for music I listen to. Like I remember hearing In Casino Out, and that took a little while to like creep in and grow on me, but once it did, I was just like obsessed with it.
Yeah, they were just the coolest band of all time, and I love how they rejected a lot of the stuff that was popular, like the machismo, like slam dancing and shit like that. They were like, you know, they 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 would refuse to play shows where if they thought kids were getting hurt, they would they wouldn't perform. They and they just kick so much ass.
Yeah, yeah. I used to kind of make fun of them for that, or bands who did that, but they were actually right because it was really out of control, especially back then. And everyone should be able to enjoy the show and have a good time and not worry about getting groped or beaten up or any other bullshit like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did like they played a music festival where they walked off stage. I think it was I don't want to say it was I don't know if it was Woodstock, but Limp Bizkit played the next day, I think, and then someone died.
Yeah,
Like they were and they were telling the crowd, like chill out. Um, or we're gonna walk off stage, and the crowd wouldn't chill out, so they did, and then yeah, the next day, like Limp Bizkit performed, and someone died, which I don't necessarily blame on Limp Bizkit, but
right.
um, because Limp Bizkit is like you know, they're just gonna do what they do.
Right. That's
And
yeah, yeah, that might maybe that's Woodstock because I remember watching the documentary and hearing something about that, but yeah, now a brief aside, I didn't realize Limp Bizkit got blamed for a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily their fault, according to the documentary, which I believe because in the news cycle, all you heard was Limp Bizkit played The Place Is on Fire, but they left out that the promoters weren't giving people water and everyone was out baking in the sun all day, or water was like $6 a bottle and there was a lot of weird shadiness going on. So, that just goes to show you don't always get the full story from the whatever news cycle you're tapping into.
yeah, it was Big Day Out 2001. That's at the drive-in walked off, and then later in the day, something happened at Limp Bizkit's set.
There you go.
Yeah,
And that's horrible. That's got to be horrible for any band, like for that to happen during one of their performances, and it's happened to quite a few bands.
yeah. I mean, I don't know that I would want to keep playing music if someone was like hurt, uh, from during a performance, and I didn't know about it. Like that I would have to like rethink a lot of the shit I was doing, and I think they were, trying to say something about it, but it's hard.
It is, but it's smart though, and it's brave. Like when I'm younger, I'm like, oh, they're just crying. Who cares if people are moshing, blah blah blah. But it's smart, because they're looking out for people, and like we just mentioned, I'm sure they don't want a death on their conscience or to be
Yeah,
somewhat responsible for.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So Spotted Horse comes out. Now, this is when you got on my radar specifically because of that This Will Destroy You post. I mean, did you see things pick up a lot after that?
Um, yeah, I think so. We got because we were simultaneously around that time we were working. We joined up with Brutal Panda Records. So we did the This Will Destroy You tour, and then we signed with that label, and Spotted Horse was kind of the first album that we had put out with a label, and it was not directly after the This Will Destroy You tour, but pretty close. So yeah, we did notice that there was like a little uptick in people that were following us, which was really nice, and we felt very fortunate.
Had you done a lot of touring at that point? I mean, had you like covered the whole country yet?
I had and Camacho had. I don't know that Corey had done a lot of touring. I had done touring in my previous bands, and yeah, Camacho played in a noise rock band called Lechuguillas, and they did a lot of touring back in the day too.
What do you do for work? How do you make ends meet?
I it, I work in the tech industry, so I sit at a computer all day.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great for the lower back.
Oh yeah. You know what? I want to get one of those Herman Miller chairs. Those are supposed to be the best.
Yeah, I feel like every time I buy some ergonomic chair, it just sucks. Like, I don't know. I gotta buy the ones that don't say ergonomic on it.
Yeah, I was going to get a gaming chair because I was doing a whole Twitch thing at one point, but those chairs actually look cheap and really uncomfortable because they have the super high back and I don't sit perfectly straight up all the time. But those I've looked at those Herman Miller chairs that are like $1,700 and those look like it. So the next time I have an extra $1,700 to spend on a chair, I'm doing it.
Let me know how it goes.
Uh,
I might be in the market for one.
I'm going to. I'm going to. So does your job allow for you to tour? Like I've been in bands where I do a little bit of touring and I said to them, look, like I might be on the road. I'll be logged in, right? But I might be in a van like in the South. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. It just if you're on and you can get the stuff done, it doesn't matter where you are. Like how does it work for you?
Yeah, that's kind of what it's like now. It is not really ideal to go on tour and work remotely
It's
from a
not.
van. It really sucks. But if it has to happen that way, I'll do it. I did it on I think I did it like 2 tours ago. And I've lost jobs because of my touring schedule. And it's just kind of like one of those things that you try to manage. Sometimes it's harder than other times, and but yeah, I've definitely worked from the road, and I just remember thinking like it was the most surreal thing because I we were in like this weird like mountain area. We were driving through like a canyon, and I was like pushing code up to like GitHub, and I'm just like, man, this is just so weird that I'm doing this from a moving van, like in the middle of nowhere.
You've gotten fired from jobs because of your touring schedule?
Well, I wouldn't say like directly fired, but like I've lost jobs because they're just like like you're taking like too much time off, or like we can't give you this time off, and it'll be like something important that we're doing. And I've heard this from other bands too, sometimes, like with like there's just sacrifices that you have to make sometimes, and it can be rough, like relationships, jobs, other bands. Yeah, there's a lot out there that will come into onto the touring band sacrificial altar.
Have you sacrificed all those things?
Uh, Probably everything except for the relationship thing. I don't, every partner I've ever had has been really understanding if I have to go on tour. So, but I do know other bands that are like, my girlfriend broke up with me while I'm on tour. Things like that, where I'm just like, shit, dude.
Are you in a relationship now?
I am, yeah.
How long?
We met not last New Year's Eve, but the New Year's Eve before that.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's been going good.
That's good. She's supportive of the band.
Yeah, they're very familiar with band stuff. So they know how it goes.
So they won't be breaking up with you while you're on tour.
I hope not. It's definitely a possibility, but we'll see.
Anything can happen, right? But it's going good now, so that's good.
Yeah, I can't complain.
Twin Dream. Now, this was recorded during the pandemic. Yes, I read that you and Camacho, the previous drummer, were unemployed on unemployment because you had gotten laid off, right? So we buckled down and recorded a new record during the pandemic.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this one, another one where you didn't have a lot of material up front and you just went in and banged it out. Is that true?
Yeah, it's kind of become a reoccurring theme that that's how we have just been recording stuff. But yeah, the pandemic was, Camacho and I got furloughed, and we were living together in the same house, and so me and him were able to like write stuff, and like Corey would send it to us and stuff. And then when the quarantine uh, time was over, we got together, booked some studio time with Andrew, and kind of did it in a very similar way to Spotted Horse, except we decided to write within the studio, which was a little reckless of us, but we decided to do it. And it worked out, it was kind of a creative experiment in the sense that you when you have like a deadline, like you're in the studio from this day to this day, you have to finish these songs. There's a hard stop, and then like you're paying for studio time, so you can't mess it up.
Right.
When you put deadlines and goals like that, your focus is just involuntarily increased around that time. And then we also, that whole process kind of, it didn't allow us to like hyper analyze the songs so much, to the point where we would want to rework them, or we'd hate them. So it was kind of like the first idea is what we have to go with. And we realized that doing that process is writing music like that is a really interesting way to get some really cool stuff that you probably would have scrapped later on. I think I want to say Miles Davis did something like that. He did like a whole album of like one takes, of like the first take is what they went with. Yeah, kind of. I think Kind of Blue, recorded
That
in 9 hours on my birthday. Wow.
Oh wow. That's a daring way to do things. I like it though, because I like to do that. The last recording I did, we kind of did that for a song. I'm like, I want to write a song right before we go in, so we have one more song. And a lot of big albums or famous albums, you'll hear that they're in the studio and they come up with something on the spot, and that always ends up being the biggest song. So I love the idea of pushing yourselves to come up with something on the spot and see what happens, because a lot of times that's how great things happen.
Yeah, yeah. We've scrapped so many songs because we're working on them for so long, and we just like we work on it to the point that we hate it. And
Yeah.
I think the point of like Twin Dream was to not give us that option. It's like okay, we'll make sure the first thing you write is the thing you like, and be very intentional with like your parts. And like it was at the time, it was like really, I remember having a lot of anxiety about that process. I remember thinking that it was really, it was a really big risk. And because we're not like the fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers or some shit. We don't have like a label that's just gonna like pour money into us writing in the studio. Like who does that shit? Like little DIY bands don't do that. That's really dumb. But we did it, and it actually worked. I was very surprised at that. Um, and it kind of like taught me a lesson. It kind of taught me to trust my intuition a little bit more, to kind of like hold my artistic abilities, at least like my instrument in my like playing, to kind of like hold that to a higher regard, and to kind of don't feel scared to like rely on those things, because you've been a musician for like so long and you've played countless hours, and like why'd you do all that if not for like opportunities like this?
How long in the studio?
I think that was another week. I think we wrote and recorded that album in 1 week.
And we're talking in the studio, writing, recording, final product, what we hear.
Pretty much, yeah. It was I think yeah, we wrote just about every record or every song in there. I think the only song we didn't do that with was a song called Absolute Virtue. That song was actually a 4-month long process of tinkering until we got it just right. And but we had just written that song around the time of the pandemic, so we had it in our back pocket and we just threw it on the album. But every other song was written in the studio.
That's amazing to me. You guys must have been really locked in because that album is incredible. That was our favorite album of 2021 here at the New Scene.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, fear and anxiety are really great motivators.
Yeah. 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 Dustin, I don't know if you know this, but Glassing are two-time album of the year winners here at the New Scene. Let's see. Spotted Horse. Wait, Spotted Horse was 2020, right? But I think we were a year late. And then Twin Dream, 2021.
That's awesome.
So Twin Dream comes out, pandemic is over. It must have felt good getting back to playing shows, right? Because I remember wondering if they were ever going to happen again.
Yeah, we our first show back was one of the coolest shows I've ever played. It was it was like it was a house show, but it was like outside at like this ranch. And there was like an outside stage and like there was this like balcony and our friend Kaya, it was our friend Kaya's house and he put it together with Camacho and it was just it was just the coolest like it felt really really good to play again and to see everybody come out and we had all these new songs that we were like debuting and stuff. So um it was a great opportunity to just kind of like show people what we'd been working on around that time. And I remember our friend Monica flew out from Arizona to come see the show, which
Wow.
was really cool. Um but yeah, it was really great. There's like a video of us playing like I think Sulk for the first time. And like during the breakdown at the end of that song, like someone like chucks a beer can at the stage. And it's so cool.
Yeah, I remember seeing that show on Instagram. Did that still happen when that was like pretty early into things opening up, right?
Yeah, yeah, it kind of it surprised us because we were worried about we didn't want to be doing shows irresponsibly, you know.
Yeah.
But things had been opened back up for a little while. And it was outside, and I think that's why we inevitably decided to do it. Um, and then we saw how many people were going, and then we were like, "Oh shit! Like this is kind of like a lot." And but yeah, I think it was okay. Yeah, that was a difficult time. It was hard to figure out what to do as like a performer because, like you wanted to be conscious of people not getting sick. You wanted everybody to be healthy and be safe and that was the top priority back then.
Yeah, it was weird and confusing times because I don't know. If it were up to some people, I think we'd still be there in 2020, like with masks and inside and never going out anywhere. But at some point, we had to get back out. Now, yes, of course, safety has to be taken into accountability and masks had to be worn and vaccines gotten and all that stuff. But I don't know. I just think about all the bickering and people yelling at each other and trying to cancel each other and shows are happening and everyone's like, "Oh, this is so irresponsible." Like I don't know. So all the social media arguing and stuff on Twitter when I think back to it, I'm just like, "Ugh, I'm so glad we're not there anymore."
Yeah, me too. It was a very I will say that it was a very eye-opening moment me as an individual because I was like, you see like a whole bunch of people handling this like global pandemic in different ways, and it kind of showed you the true colors of a lot of people where you're like, wow, I didn't realize that you were this like self-serving.
Yeah.
Um And that was kind of rough. That was probably the roughest part about that whole thing is like knowing that like, you like your uncle or whatever is like an anti-vaxxer or something. Damn it, dude.
Yeah, it was, yeah, yeah. It's a good lesson to just stay off social media for me. I only go on Twitter now to post my podcast episode. I don't look at any more stuff. I don't look at any more bickering. I don't. I kind of just stay out of everything. Which I don't. Maybe it's not the best approach. I'm not as informed maybe as I was before. But look, my thing is I don't want to dislike people. I don't want to argue with people. I don't want to get sucked into that bipartisan like, hey, if you believe this, great. And if you don't, these people are your enemy. I like to kind of subvert all of that and just try to take people at face value, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to be honest.
Now, Glassing has a new LP out, From the Other Side of the Mirror. It just came out this past April, yes?
Yes.
Yes, and it is setting the world on fire. And I want to talk some more about this record. Did you take the same approach with this record as the previous two? Did you just kind of get together and write it? Like, how does it work?
This record is unique because we took a completely different approach to writing, one that we've never really done before. And so our drummer, Scott, he lives in San Diego.
Yes. Now, this is the drummer also of Death Club, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great band.
Yeah, they're great. They're great dudes.
Now, how
And
do you hook up with Scott if he lives all the way in California?
he used to live in Austin. We know him from shows and stuff. He would like he was like a fan of the band for a long time. And we just saw him as like a homie. And he would do like drum covers and stuff of some of the songs. And he would he just really liked the music. And then one day he joined the band and but then shortly after he, moved to California. So we were like, okay, well, I guess we're just gonna, fly him out for shows and stuff, which on paper didn't what kind of it was a little worrisome, but it's worked out.
Yeah, now I wanted to ask about that. You'll fly him out for shows.
Yeah.
So do you guys pay? Is there like a band fund where his flights are covered?
Yeah, we will usually like if we it's usually the money from the show
Yeah.
that goes to pay for it. And yeah, that's pretty much how we handle that. So like that's kind of how we went about like writing the record. So we would fly Scott in for about a week. We would write like one or two songs during that week, and then at the end of the week we would record it. We'd book studio time, record it. And then once we're done recording it, Scott would fly back to San Diego, and then a month or so would go by, and then we would do it again. So we did that for like maybe a year and a half, like 2 years or so, and yeah, they were very short and intense intervals, but we were working with Andrew Hernandez, and he's a fantastic engineer, and he he's just really great to work with, and Scott's a professional, so he writing music with him is pretty easy. He knows the vibe of the band, and Camacho he's is a fan of Camacho's drumming, so he like knows how to approach the drum parts using the same, in the same manner as like Camacho might have, which is cool. But he like also obviously does his own thing when he needs to. But yeah, we would do these like short little week-long intervals where we would record a song at the end of the week, and we did that like maybe 3 or 4 times, and then eventually we had a whole record.
I read that Scott had to actually learn how to drum slower for your band.
Yeah, he is Def Club is a very fast band. They're they're insane. And he I don't know, for the longest time I thought Glassing was a fast band. I was like, yeah, we're super fast and all that. And I remember I went to a house show where Def Club was playing, And I was like, wow, okay, we're the slow band. I got like Def Club's the fast uh band where he has to kind of like slow it down for us. And then also we have intentionally slow songs too. So but yeah, everything that Scott does normally is very fast and kind of like chaotic and noisy, which is really, really cool. So for us, he kind of had to like, yeah, he had to like tone it down a little bit.
Is there typically an overall theme for a record when you're putting it together and putting the lyrics together?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the theme kind of comes out. It manifests during the writing process, I think. When I'll start to notice like different reoccurring elements, reoccurring themes within the lyrics and what I'm writing about. I generally never go into a record with a concept in mind, but I'll have one, you know, once I'm like maybe two or three songs in, I'll be like, okay, this is starting to kind of formulate in my mind what this record is kind of going to be about, what these songs feel like, and what I'm interested in writing at the time.
What's the theme for From the Other Side of the Mirror?
Um, it's so the title is kind of the motif that each song that unites each song. It was mostly about analyzing and observing like interpersonal relationships from different angles in my life. I just started doing therapy, so this was like kind of a big thing. Yeah, it was a lot of introspection, a lot of self-reflection. I kind of took the approach where I wanted to like synthesize what I felt another person in my life might think about me. And so in a way it's self-reflection, but it's by proxy, like you have to kind of imagine these things. So I would take different relationships in my life and kind of play devil's advocate for that person as best as I could. Obviously, I could never really know how someone feels about me, um, or how they look at me, and that part kind of became the bigger theme because I was like, oh wow, I actually don't like in my attempt to do this, I realized I actually can never really know this because I would never tell anyone how I really felt about them. If I had like some really bad opinion of somebody, I might not share that type of information. A lot of people probably wouldn't. And you never know if someone is like holding back. So that kind of became the theme eventually, those two ideas. But yeah, it was a lot of raw expression and kind of just like looking at yourself in a very honest light. The lyrics are a lot more vulnerable on this record, I think, than they've ever been, which is something that I've always been trying to get closer towards. It's very difficult to do that because I don't want to be as vulnerable as like some artists, but I always respect the ones that are able to just like say these really raw things, for the sake of art. I think that's courageous. And I try to get there as much as I can, as much as I can do it, but it's hard feeling that like vulnerable and exposed and honest.
That's really interesting concept. I like that. Yeah. And I feel you on that. I don't like to be vulnerable ever. I like to act like everything's okay. I don't want to give anyone the satisfaction of knowing they got to me, you know. So that's why I won't even, you know, if someone upsets me, they don't get a song, you know. They might be mentioned in a song in passing, but you don't get a whole song. You'll just be mentioned. That's how deep it goes.
Yeah, it's a lot of confession stuff. Some of it's kind of some of these internal conflicts are kind of like disclosed in the lyrics or hidden in like lyrical abstraction. But yeah, like I'm always trying to get to the point where I can say something honest, but with artistic merit, you know? Like I want people to read my lyrics and kind of draw their own personal meaning out of maybe the the vibe that is behind it.
What prompted you to try therapy?
Um, damn, that's a good question. Shit. What did prompt me to do therapy? Man, I wanted to do therapy because I wanted to know if there was something uh wrong with me that I wasn't aware of.
Is
Uh
there?
uh maybe. Probably, most likely. I would say that yes, 100% of every person, like everybody should do therapy. I think. I think it's kind of just something that it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's vulnerable. It hurts. I think it's important though, to do to like get to know these parts of yourself, like you might have self-destructive tendencies, which I think I kind of do sometimes. Uh, but yeah, my therapist and I would, yeah, that's kind of the stuff that we dig into.
How does your self-destructive nature manifest itself? Like for me, I drank and did a whole lot of drugs for a long time, and then I stopped doing that, and there was a lot of cleanup work to do. How about for you?
That very similar. You know, I yeah, you have coping mechanisms. I like to disassociate a lot. Um, I yeah, and I just kind of like noticed certain destructive behavior in my life, and I was like, man, I wonder if this is like if there's like another root cause behind this, and it's just like pattern acknowledgement. Like, if you start seeing some sort of pattern in your life, it's worth investigating, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I see a psychiatrist because before I just thought, oh, I'm depressed. Let me go on this pill. Oh, I'm this. Let me go on this. But that's not it. And I think about that a lot. Like, I want that simple answer, like, oh, you're bipolar. Because then I can be like, oh, I'm bipolar. It's this. Or, oh, you're ADHD. And then I just want to put like a point on it to make it easy. But I don't have any of that. I mean,
And
like,
you never get it through therapy. They never give you a simple answer. It's always like, well, the reason you feel this way is because like, like you never forgave this person or whatever,
yeah. Yeah, I still want that easy answer. And I think like, wait, do I have this or do I have that? But I'm like, wait, she would tell me. I mean, I think she would tell me at some point during this if I had something. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll ask next time I go. We'll see.
Hard to know sometimes because yeah, they might not want to tell you. They might think it might hurt your progress.
I don't think I have any of that kind of stuff. I think I just have a whole lot of anxiety that manifests itself in different ways.
Yeah.
How
We
about
live
you?
Yeah, I mean we live in a very tumultuous world. Reality is harsh and it's cruel and it doesn't make sense. And a lot of um a lot of the only thing that I can ever think is like good about that is that we make art to heal internally from those things or to express ourselves in those ways, and that is kind of like the universal bond I think between people is that we can all kind of do that together. And I think that's kind of the purpose of music, uh on a fundamental level, I think.
It is. The podcast is one thing. That's something I love. And having these conversations helps me a lot. It just helps me constantly be working on something and constantly engaged in something, which is what I want. But the music as well. I mean, that's really where it's at.
Yeah, it's a great outlet.
Is that your only outlet? Is there anything else that you do?
um I do other things. I actually just finished up on a score for a movie. It's called Rich Interior Lives. It's done by there's a production company called 10 Seconds to Comply, and they're really awesome individuals, and they put this movie together and they asked Glassing to do the soundtrack. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it the best of my ability. I've never really done anything like that before. But it was really great working with them. And that aside from that, what else do I do? I mostly just do music, to be honest. I do yoga. I like doing yoga a lot.
That's good. Yeah, I just started introducing physical fitness into the regimen. I'm trying to get back up to a certain number of push-ups that I can do every day, and I started running, and that's kind of been a game changer.
Running's a yeah, I go on runs too. It's a full body workout. It's great. I feel uh like something's off if I don't work out at least daily. I feel I have that same type of like nervous anxiety energy.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's not so bad, but sometimes it's really bad. Like I can't even look at people or talk to people, and I'm just like in a corner somewhere.
Yeah. I get the same thing. I get that on tour a lot.
Right.
So I end up mostly just sitting in the van, which is insane sometimes because we sometimes some days we'll be driving for like 7 hours. We'll get to the venue and then after we load in, I'll just like go right back to the van because I just don't want to, engage on a social level with people. I also don't really like leave my house ever. Yeah, I stay at home like 90% of the time. Uh, I've kind of always just been that way though.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done the van move for sure. And I'm home a pretty good amount, but I make sure I get out, whether even if it's just a walk around the block. I still go to a fair number of shows that gets me out, like even if I'm just seeing a band. So, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. How was the tour with Author and Punisher? That must have been great.
It was a lot of fun. Tristan is an incredible human. He's a genius. Uh, for lack of a better word, like he's an innovator. He just the way he thinks about things is just like fascinating. And yeah, his live set is so cool. Like every single night, they went on stage and just crushed it. And it was honestly just like a privilege to be on the same stage as him as those guys every night. It was really cool.
Yeah, amazing live show. I've had Tristan on the show too, and my friend Doug is his live guitarist now. We
Yeah,
lived,
Doug's the man. We love Doug.
he's the best. We lived together for a while when I was
Oh,
still in
cool.
Philadelphia. Yeah.
Oh, sick. Yeah. Yeah, Doug is like literally the coolest person I've ever met in my entire life. His just vibe is just so chill. Like I'm like, man, that's like I don't know. You meet people like that every now and then. You're just like, man, how do you get this? How are you this relaxed all the time?
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, I strive for that vibe, but I'll never have it.
I do too. Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah, they're very nice dudes. Yeah, it was honestly like one of the coolest tours we've done.
So what do we have coming up? Tours, shows, what can we announce?
Yeah, so we're doing a show for this thing called Dark Days and Bright Nights in Richmond, Virginia. I think it's on September 13th through the 15th. So we're doing that. We're doing a European tour pretty soon, and we're playing Arctangent on August 19th, I believe. We're really excited for that. And then I think we're playing Pelagic Fest too, which is our label's like festival that they're doing. And then we have a few shows in Europe surrounding those shows. And oh, we're doing a little California tour in June with yeah, with a band called Numares. And that's gonna be cool. We're really pumped on that.
Nice. How have the accolades been rolling in for from the other side of the mirror? What do we think? Best glassing record yet? I think so. How about you?
Yeah, it's cool. it's kind of hard to like think about it as like a best kind of, like objectively, because it's, it's art is a subjective thing, but we're uh we're happy with it. We're really excited it turned out the way it did, and it's kind of a new direction for us because Scott's bringing this whole new different energy to the band, and we're kind of taking a different approach to things. I think vocally it's probably the best stuff that I've gotten to do, just because I decided that this was the record that I was going to challenge myself a little bit more, and kind of do different things that I thought would kind of aid our songwriting and aid our style. And so yeah, in some ways I guess I could say it's the best thing that we've done, but it's cool. I'm glad that we're in the artistically the spot that we're in. I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, I love it. And you did some more melodic stuff vocally on this record, which I like. But the cool thing about glassing is you can do whatever you want within this band. You have tracks that are more ambient, you have tracks that are more post rock. Dire Sulk was like a huge roundhouse kick to the head, and you did the more death growly vocals, which was really cool. It's like I love bands like Glassing because I've always loved crossover bands, but to be in a band like that and just be able to go in all these different directions is great, right? And that's what you want for this band. Like I've read that's you don't want to be confined to any one genre. Like you want to be able to do what you want to do, and that's it.
Yeah, we like to take our favorite things from different like heavy genres, pull out the things that we like and leave the stuff that we don't. So we might not be like a hardcore band, but sometimes we'll do like a hardcore breakdown, um, just for fun, because those things, I don't know, that's just like a really fun element of hardcore. But we also have like black metal influences and post rock influences and stuff. So we're trying to like kind of combine it all together. I think sometimes, it's easy to miss the mark. But I think we did okay on this one.
For sure. The band has always been really good at combining these elements. I don't know. There was a period in the 2000s and maybe into the 2010s where there was a lot of sing slash scream bands, and the bands don't always hit the mark. I can't think of anybody offhand, but like, sometimes you hear it and it's like, oh, here's the singing part. Oh, here's
Yeah,
the melodic part.
the
But
chorus comes on and then
yeah, but like with glassing, it's always been seamless. And
well,
that's my opinion.
thanks. Yeah, we try to make it feel that way. There's definitely a lot more singing on this record than any other record that we've ever done. And yeah, making it seamless is uh is a challenge. But I think the key to having a variety of vocals is like just play it by ear. Don't try to force anything. If you feel like screaming for an entire song or even an entire record, just do that. Like having like contriving it is, always going to sound like you contrived it. I don't whenever I'm like, okay, I should sing here, it's just because like I'm just kind of feeling it. So I think listening to your gut is a good rule of thumb for that type of stuff.
That's the way to do it. Trust your instincts and don't try to force it. And if you're trying to force it and it's not working, just don't do it. And don't always go with the first draft too, because sometimes I write something and I'm like, there, I have written something. And then I'm like, wait, this is actually shitty. Let me get down to like draft 4. And
Yeah.
then you start digging into the good stuff.
Yeah. I I I like to write stuff. One trick I took from like the way when we recorded Spotted Horse was like write stuff in the early morning, like on your day off or whatever, like Saturday morning. Write something, stop messing with it at some point, and then like wait till nighttime, maybe like smoke a joint or something, and then kind of like come back to it and see how you feel about it.
Right.
That's a really good lens of analysis, I think.
I read that you can be pretty critical of parts that are brought to the band. That poor Corey will have to bring like 10 riffs to practice and you'll shoot down most of them. Is that true?
Yeah, that's unfortunately, it's an
Damn.
unfortunate reality of working with me is I'm a little bit of a hater. Um,
But how great to be in the position where you can shoot the riffs down and decide what's going to pass and what's not.
well, I don't like to do like executive order stuff. Like I like the concept that like, the band is kind of a democracy and I rarely will ever be um like I rarely will ever be like I refuse to work on this when like two-thirds of the band wants to work on it.
Right.
I'm lucky because like maybe I do have like a little bit of a more like harsher critique on things, but it's not by much. I feel like Corey is also very self-aware of a lot of his parts. And there have also been times when Corey will write something and I'll be like, that's the coolest thing you've ever come up with. And he's like, I hate that. What are you talking about? And I'll have to be like, dude, like listen, like trust me, please. But I do the same thing. Like I'll write a bass line and I'm like, I hate that bass line. And Corey's like, no, what are you talking about? Like that's the coolest thing ever. And like Scott does the same. Scott is really great for advocating for parts that maybe the individual wrote it and then they hate it. And Scott's like, you're just thinking about it too much. You're overanalyzing it and having somebody like that can kind of call it out is really great.
The tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. So keep doing it. And Dustin, I love the new record. I've loved the band since I first heard it. So you guys just keep doing what you're doing and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for having me.
And there you have it. Dustin Coffman. Excellent, excellent conversation. I really dig their new record, From the Other Side of the Mirror. And it's an interesting concept that Dustin was talking about behind that record. And something I think about fairly often as well. Other people's perceptions of us, what they could be. I think about that sometimes. I think everybody thinks about that sometimes. But I liked the whole therapy talk there at the end with Dustin and how that ties into the record. Also, pretty wild that Dustin is a fan of the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. He said he got that when he was young and was listening to it, and I did the same thing. I still listen to it. It's a classic. But yeah, Glassing is a great band. You can't go wrong with any of their releases. So if you haven't heard them yet, I strongly, strongly urge you to go check it out. So thank you so much, Dustin, for coming on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? How is everyone doing out there? I am doing good. It's been a stressful couple weeks. Yeah, my day job is stressful lately because it's just been really busy. I'm talking like working till 10 o'clock at night to catch up with things and then getting up at 7 in the morning to make sure I'm ready for calls. And I got assigned this multiple month job that's usually outside of things I cover. And then I started to get into it. And then they come back and they're like, oh, actually, we don't need you to do that. So I was like, oh, man, I'm all geared up to do this. I got all this work done to get ready. But listen, it's fine. So day job is stressful, but it's going well. And it's kind of scary there because there's a lot of layoffs and restructuring and a lot of things going on, leadership changes. But I've survived so far, and I hope that I can stay there for a long time because I like the company. I like the people. I get to work from home 95% of the time. And honestly, I don't know what I would do if I had to get another job where I had to go somewhere every day or go into another office every day or, God forbid, travel all the time again. I don't know what I'd do. I'd have to figure out something else because I don't think I can handle it anymore. So work is busy. The band is busy. My new band, Memory Entry. We've been practicing a lot because we've got 2 shows coming up. I've been working a lot with the record labels. That's right, record labels on which the release is coming out. It's going to be a split release between 2 labels. And I'm not going to tell you which, but it will be coming out early next year, our debut EP. But there will be a single up soon. And there's been a lot of work practicing, getting ready for the shows. I've been doing a lot of work on my voice, figuring out how to warm up correctly, figuring out how not to blow out my voice, figuring out how to make it through the whole set strongly. And I'm just about there. So that's great news. And we have a show this week. If you live in New York City, we are playing Area 141st Bar in the Lower East Side on Wednesday, July 17th. We're probably going to play around 10 p.m. It's a small venue. We're going to be crammed in back there, but it'll be a good first show for us. So if you live in New York City, come out and check it out. And don't forget, we're opening the This Day Forward reunion gig at Bowery Ballroom in New York City. That's August 25th, Sunday, August 25th, and we play first. So you've got to come to that. That's going to be a killer show. This is also officially 2 months of me getting in shape. 2 months ago, I started running. I started small and built it up to a mile. And I've been doing a mile every other day, running. And then the other day, I did a whole continuous mile, and then I went further than a mile. So I'm starting to cycle in more distance slowly. I'm taking it slow so that I don't mess myself up or mess my knees up or any of that. I've also been doing a lot of dumbbell lifting, dumbbell exercises, and every month I up the weight on those. So again, taking it slow. Don't want to injure myself. Don't want anything to go wrong. And I feel good. I started doing it because I wanted to get in shape for these shows, and I thought it would help out my voice, which I think it is. But just being in shape is better. It's not a whole life-changing thing where my entire life is different, but I do feel better. When I walk up or downstairs, I don't feel so winded. When it's super hot out, I don't feel like my life is going to end and that I'm not going to make it through summer. I think my mood is better. But one good thing is that I'm outside a lot more. Every day I have to take a walk, no matter what. There was times before where I would sit inside for 2-3 days and not really go outside at all. Now I go outside every day. Even if I run in the morning, I still go take a walk through the neighborhood in the evening. And it's nice being outside in the summer. And, there's a breeze in the air. People are out. It's good. It's good. So I'm outside a lot more. I feel better. And that's all great stuff. So let's keep going. Let's hit month 3. Besides that, there's not a lot going on. Podcast is moving along. We've got a lot of great guests coming up. We're still here every week. We'll still be here every week. So that's good. Last weekend was 4th of July. I went to see my parents, and I had to work. I had to work on podcast stuff. I had to work on regular work stuff. I was busy the entire weekend, so I didn't even have a minute to sit down and do anything. So this weekend right now, I'm taking a lot of time to just sit around and relax a lot more, and that's exactly what I need. But we're just about ready to play these shows. The record is coming out. I feel good. I feel good about everything, and I'll take it. So that's it for this week. We are going to end the show with something a little different this week. This is an artist I discovered in 2020, and I've been listening to this song a lot lately. This is a great summertime song. Think twilight in the summer, a cool breeze through the air, the sun is setting. This is the perfect song for that kind of setting. The artist is, I hope I'm saying this right, Refeeld, Refeeld. He did a collaboration EP with Project AER. It's called Chance Encounter. So we're going to end the show with a song from that EP called Blue Terrain. I'll add it to the New Scene 2024 Spotify playlist. You can find all of my recommendations and all of our guests there. So go to Spotify, listen to the playlist, and remember, we need a lot of Apple Podcast reviews. A lot. We need like 69 Apple Podcast reviews. So if you have not rated the show on Apple Podcasts, do it. Do it today. Help us out. Help us get over 300, and then we can give it a break for a little bit. So enjoy the song. I'm back next week with a new episode and a new guest. I'll see you then.